Scoobynatural was really great. I was genuinely impressed with it. And that's the first time I've felt this way since season 11 with the episode Baby. This episode probably has the best dialogue in it since The French Mistake. Not only is it funny, it's super quotable. The guys who wrote it, James Krieg and Jeremy Adams, are guest writers, but Supernatural should hire these dudes as staff writers immediately. I had pretty much just one problem with this episode, and I'll get to that later, but it is just so nice not to be curmudgeonly and pissed off and just a cynical asshole about Supernatural for once. I have observations and stray thoughts that this episode brought up in me that aren't necessarily about Scoobynatural, but I'm going to share them now anyway. One thing that you really can say about Supernatural at this point is that there really is nothing else like it on TV. One of the reasons why Buffy the Vampire Slayer is such a big deal and was such a big deal at the time that it aired was that it mixed genres and tones like no other TV show before, or at least if ones that came before, none were as successful as Buffy was. Supernatural has taken the concept of mixing genres and tones and just turned it up to 11, and God bless it for that. I'd also like to take the opportunity, because it can never be done enough, to talk about just how awesome Ben Edlund is again, and thank him for what he brought to Supernatural. A murderous stuffed animal is right out of that Crazy Geniuses playbook, and also Ben Edlund solidified Dean the cool but of course adorable nerd way back in season 2, as well as a Dean who likes decided lame, unmasculine, and or flat out girly things. Thank you, Ben Edlund. The show would have never been the same if you were not a part of it, and that is true on multiple levels, and STL shippers especially owe this man a huge debt. Another person to thank, I suppose, would be John Scheiben, since he's the one who wrote Tall Tales way back in season 2, which was the first wacky, silly episode, and he opened a door for Supernatural, for content like that to then be made after. To get back to Scoobynatural, I like that Dean is building more of the home he's always wanted. It was a bittersweet character moment. So, do you guys think that the Scooby-Doo version of Sam and Dean is more attractive than their anime versions? I think so, honestly, but Sam and Dean also look way more like themselves than they did in the anime version of Supernatural. As said previously, the jokes in this episode are actually pretty amazing. One of the reasons why is likely because the writers fell back on that tried and true comedy trope of having two characters play a straight man and a wise guy, where Sam played the straight man and Dean played the wise guy. And that's kind of always been the boys' comedy dynamic, but they really played it up to great effect here. There is also nods to the fandom, like Dean mysteriously saying, "Or is he?" when Sam says that Gabriel is dead, because obviously the debate about our Gabriel being alive will probably never end. There was a bunch of great one-liners with Castiel's wonderful, "I once led armies and now I'm paired with a scruffy Philistine and a talking dog." And when Castiel comes into the picture of the episode, he's used to build the jokes with Sam and Dean. There was also the long joke in the form of Velma's crush on Sam, where at the end she bends Sam over and gives him a big kiss. A feat that would be nearly impossible for the average woman outside of animation because of Jared's sheer size. The existential freakout of the Scooby Gang when confronted with the real Supernatural was great too. Another great moment was the background music called Dean's Dirty Organ, which played when they showed the gang Baby's truck. That bit of music hasn't been in the show for a long ass time. I can't even remember the last time it was used. Also, Dean's fuck being bleeped out hasn't been done since Ghostfacers. So the only real problem I had with this episode was Dean's pursuit of Daphne, or rather the joke being beaten to death. For one, I really gotta ask, how old is Daphne? I sure as hell hope she's legal because Dina's almost 40 years old. Of course, most Destiel shippers think that this is yet more evidence of Dean's overperformed heterosexuality, but I'm gonna guess that it's probably not that deep this time. A lot of men had a crush on Daphne as children, and maybe she was even Dean's first crush. Unlike a lot of shippers and other Dean fans, it doesn't bother me when Dean wants to get his mac on with a lady, but to me, this time, Dean's pursuit of Daphne just really danced on the line of creepy and gross because Daphne made it subtly clear over and over again that she did not, in fact, want the D from Dean. In the vein of Destiel, I feel compelled to ask, why did Cass ask what Dean did with the Cartwright twins? Cass isn't ignorant of humans and their behavior anymore, has had sex himself, and knows about Dean's history with women. It was a weird moment. I don't think Cass asked because he was jealous, like some more hopeful shippers might think. I just think it was a joke that fell flat because I think Cass's character has grown beyond that joke. Again, it's not always that deep, people, but on the other hand, Cass wanted to know about Dean grabbing the ghost's thigh, which might have something to do with jealousy if you tilt your head and squint at it. Well, what do I know? Sayonara and auf Wiedersehen.